Welcome to the Heart and Soul of Business Leadership Interview Series, presented by Wasatch ActionCOACH.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our next interview in our Leadership Interview Series. Today, I have with me Coach Frank Bonnin. He is the firm owner of Wasatch ActionCOACH and a certified business coach. And we also have with us Clay Christensen. He is the president of Mountainland Technical College. And Clay, Frank has some questions for you.
Great.
Hi, Clay. Thanks for joining us on this interview series. This is the first time we've actually interviewed somebody with from a technical college, and I think that's fantastic because I'm sure you're going to talk about this, but technical colleges are a very important part of our society. Not only do they educate people at a higher level, but it's right there within our community, and I absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and get started. And can you tell us a little bit about Mountain Technical College?
Yes.
Mountainland.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate the opportunity to be on today. Maybe just to preface just a little bit, approximately 2 years ago, the legislature combined the two systems, technical education and the university credit granting institutions. And so all 16, the universities, the community colleges, the technical colleges, were all part of one 16 institution system within the state of Utah. Mountainland Technical College is one of the 8 traditional technical colleges that were merged into that system. We're the largest of the technical colleges, hasn't always been that way. Approximately 15 years ago, we were the 5th largest college. We're now the largest technical college. So growth is our challenge and opportunity that we've been dealing with. So give you a little bit of an overview. Our region encompasses Utah, Wasatch, and Summit County, largest populous region of the technical college system. We have campuses in Lehigh and Orem, Provo, and in Spanish Fork. And then we work with our educational partners and sponsor training programs in the high schools and at Wasatch Utah Valley University campus, so to cover Wasatch and Summit County. We have over 50 different industry certified programs. Currently, we're not a credit granting institution. None of the tech colleges are, but we're in a transition moving to where we're credit granting so that it makes it easier for students to move between the systems. Within our region, we have over 25 different stacked credentials that go entirely through the K-16 process that we work with our partners with. Our primary partner is Utah Valley University. We have over 1,600 different credits that are available for students that take advantage of our programs, our industry certified programs. We also have partnerships with Utah State University, Salt Lake Community College, and Weber State University. The legislature tasked us to be a low tuition institution for adults, and secondary students come tuition free. To give you an idea of the support from the legislature, this past year, 99.2% of our graduates graduated with no educational debt. So it's a great opportunity for students to get training, enter the workforce, or continue on with their educational institution.
Wow, that's impressive. You said that how much was it? 99.2%?
Yes.
That is amazing. So that's educational debt's obviously a huge thing in the news, in the nation today, and being able to get some higher education without that debt is amazing. So
I appreciate you pointing that out, Frank. That's probably my favorite statistic of everything that I'll share today. Maybe just add a little bit further, of that 0.8% that does graduate with debt, the average cost of that is less than $2,000. In fact, it's just over $1,700 of debt for just a handful of the students. So we have a lot of great scholarship opportunities. Many of our programs are Pell eligible. We work with business and industry, and also have state appropriations that we use for scholarships. So it really does help students be successful. We're fortunate in the Mountainland region that we have a great K-16 Alliance with our partners with UVU and the 7 school districts that are represented. We have a board of trustees that governs the school that is comprised of school board members from the 7 school districts, a trustee from UVU. The bulk of the quorum of our trustees are representatives from different business and industry that are represented within our labor market here in that 3-county area. Each of the programs has an advisory committee. We're very nimble and responsive. We can change our curriculum and the training for our students. We have over 575 individuals that sit on advisory boards that actively guide the curriculum and direction of our program. With our accreditation process, we're accredited by the Council on Occupational Education out of Atlanta, Georgia. 3 primary criteria that we have to meet and exceed national standards are in completion, placement, and related licensure. So students can't graduate, go get a job in the fast food industry and call that a placement. It has to be in their related occupational training. And if any of our programs drop below national standards, they are what is called triggered. And if we don't bring that up to exceed those national standards, then we have to eliminate that program or our institution will lose our accreditation.
So there's a few things I wanted to ask you on that. The level of placement, obviously that's critical because a technical college really is job related. One of the things that I like to say is our educational system. Well, I don't like to say this, but I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that our educational system up through 12th grade isn't necessarily focused on employment and becoming a productive member of society. But what goes on there at Mountainland is fantastic, and I like those thresholds you're talking about and being required to meet those thresholds. You've been there for 17 years, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how has that changed over the course of those 17 years? Because obviously there's been a lot of change in education.
I think the things that I've seen the remarkable change in, and maybe to compound that a little bit further with my previous administrative assignments in public ed and from the State Office of Education at that time, I worked here in this region. So I've worked here, gosh, going on 30 some odd years in administration. The biggest thing that I've seen change is this emphasis on current technical education, the importance of industry certification, and to take it a step further, these stackable credentials that allow students to not have to repeat what's going on in their K-12 system, the technical college system, and Utah Valley University. And I have to give a lot of credit to the superintendents in our region and also to Astrid Jimenez, the president at Utah Valley University. Great educational partner. She and her team have helped develop these over 25 different stack credentials that allow students to move further so that they can be lifelong learners and continue in their occupation. And we have the bulk of our students graduate, they take that industry credential and they go to work. But if they decide that they want to come back later on, that door is open. So while there's an off-ramp, there's also an on-ramp for further learning down the road. So that K-16 Alliance, I dare say our K-16 Alliance is as dynamic as any in the state or even the Intermountain West. We work closely together. We're not worried about building kingdoms. We keep the focus on students bettering their lives through education, and how can we best do that and eliminate duplication so they don't have to repeat. Yes.
Hey, one of the things you mentioned there is it's a big trigger word for me, lifelong learning, because I really believe in lifelong learning. I believe that that as we grow up, as we're progressing through our traditional school system, we go for 12 years, maybe 16, and for a few years more than that. And during those 12 or 16 years, we have a series of steps that we have to take, and each step, first grade has certain things that are required that are higher than kindergarten. Second grade has things that are higher than that, and you keep going up that ladder until you graduate. And then you become an adult. And then what happens with a lot of people when they're adults, if they don't focus on that lifelong learning that you just mentioned, is they live a year and then they live another year, but they're not progressing. They're not taking more steps up that ladder. They're not making themselves better. And I really believe in lifelong learning and institutions like yours to help keep going up that ladder, I should say, to help keep making yourself better. I can't there are so many different organizations that stress lifelong learning. I just can't stress it enough, and I love the fact that you're talking about it now, and talking about not just a program, but then when somebody finishes that, there's another program later for later in their life and later, because life's change. So that's fantastic. Two things I wanted to focus on is if you wanted to talk more about lifelong learning, love to hear it. Another one, is there any other involvement with local business communities that you have specifically there?
Yes, maybe to your lifelong learning, none of us can remain stagnant, and things change. And one of our dynamic programs, we have a great, and this ties in to both questions that you raised, Frank. We have real dynamic business industry partnerships with our educational programs. And here's a good example of that will maybe cover both of those questions. Our automotive program, for example. If you were trained as an automotive technician 20 years ago, you wouldn't have had the focus on electric cars and energy efficiency and the whole green approach that's taking place. So you have to be nimble and responsive and be willing to learn, whether that's on-the-job training or formalized education that you may go back for. So you have to be receptive to that. And as we look at that and know how many jobs that don't even exist right now that will within the future, that we have to train students to be nimble and responsive and be willing to learn. With those business partnerships, we just opened a trades and technology building a little over a year ago. Each of those programs out there, we have partnered with specific business and industry. For example, I mentioned automotive. Larry H. Miller has been our corporate sponsor. But in addition to that, we don't just train because they're our corporate sponsor. We don't just train for Larry H. Miller. We don't just train for Ford. We have partnerships with Nissan. We have partnerships with Doug Smith across the board, so that we're not training for one specific business, but we're training for an industry sector. We've done that in several programs. In our welding program, got to give a plug for Norco and Miller Electric. Good share of the equipment that's in our lab is actually owned by Norco as part of their business partnership. So our students are training on state-of-the-art equipment. It's a win-win situation for the employers as well, because after they've used Miller Electric equipment here at our in their training program, they're going to be asking for that when they go into business and industry. They already have a partnership with Norco because they allow students to buy welders, supplies, equipment at a discounted rate because they're students here at MTEC. And so that partnership's established. So that's just one example. We have partnerships in our surgical tech program, our central sterile tech program. We work with Intermountain Healthcare. We have an IHC nursing director on our board of trustees. We have the president of Revere Health sits on our board. And one of the things that we did to tie in with business and industry that's been so beneficial, when Governor Herbert was the governor here, we made we worked with he and his team, and it is set up now so that if we have someone on our board of trustees that's representing the IT industry, when their term has rotated off, the governor office has agreed to appoint someone from that same sector, so that we always have manufacturing, we always have culinary arts representation, we always have the IT representation that's in place, the trades, each of those sectors, so that we have that knowledge that ties in with that. And then one step further are those advisory committees. If you're recruiting for your company, you want to serve on our advisory committees, because then you can have that relationship with our instructors. You can have access to the students, the cream of the crop, if you might say, to be able to hire those students. We have these businesses on our campus on a regular basis. Larry H. Miller is out here hiring our students. Many of our students are hired before they ever complete our program. Many are doing part of their work-based learning training in conjunction with the employer that they work for, tied in with our program, because they've been hired, they're working for that business. So we have service sector, healthcare sector, the IT sector, and the trade sector, as well as we're the apprenticeship program provider for the region. And then we also do incumbent worker training through our custom fit program.
Hey, could you describe what that apprenticeship program is a little bit better, or more, I should say?
Yes, we have Right now, we do training in HVAC, plumbing, and electrical are our traditional areas. We also have some statewide contracts. Anyone wanting to do the general contractor apprenticeship program, they do that through Mountainland Technical College. We provide that for associated general contractors. So that's one program we actually provide outside of our service region. We have training campuses in Salt Lake County and Utah County primarily. Right now, we have over 1,200 apprentices just in the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical sector, which is, it's just phenomenal. They're great paying jobs. We partner with the Bureau of Apprenticeship Registry. The regional office is out of Denver. The curriculum is consistent with what's provided through BAR, the Bureau of Apprenticeship Registry, yet it has that local flavor, so we're able to localize. And the traditional apprenticeship program, it takes 4 years to do that. It's in the evenings. The students come 2 times a week. We're doing that. We're delivering that now in a hybrid format so that if students are working out of town, they don't necessarily have to be right on campus. They will have to come to do some of the hands-on training and their laboratories and things, but they can do that in a blended format so that we can provide that to them out of town. The bulk of our apprentices are in HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, but we do have heavy equipment operator, heavy-duty equipment, repair, and then the general contractor apprenticeship program as well.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate learning more about that, because the apprenticeship program, it combines the technical learning that you provide with the on-the-job training that is essential to a hands-on field, or any field really, because any field can benefit from an apprenticeship type style program. So I appreciate that. What would you say the biggest challenges you've had to overcome working at Mountainland?
Initially, it was name recognition. Our biggest challenge, I mentioned it earlier, challenge and opportunity, I'll say that, is growth. Yeah. We have had to add so many additional sections. Just to give you an idea on our growth factor here at Mountainland Technical College, we had been growing by double-digit percentiles each year. We grew by 13.4% prior to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we were closed for 9 weeks. When we returned, we had to implement social distancing. We had to cap enrollment. We have waiting lists in many of our programs, people waiting to get into those programs. We dropped by about 7.4% from the previous year, but it was still our second. 2020 was our second largest year to date. The year following the pandemic, we grew by 16.7%. So you can see that that's a huge challenge for us and an opportunity. So for us, adding additional section, whether it's in medical assisting that's in high demand, our apprenticeship programs, because of the hands-on nature of technical colleges, it's difficult. We are very facility intensive dependent. And so laboratories, for example, as you talked with the apprenticeship programs, we have journeymen that come in and teach in the evening on a part-time basis for us. So they're working in the industry all day and then teach in the evening. We have many of those situations during the day. For example, in our web development program, we partnered with Exactware. We are many of their programs to come and team teach with our full-time instructors to deliver that curriculum. So one of the other challenges at the technical college is being nimble with that curriculum. And that, for example, web development, that changes weekly, if not daily, as to what's being modified and changed. So meeting the demands of business and industry have been huge challenges. Getting capital facilities sufficient across the region. We have a large geographic area too, so we try to take the training as close as possible to the people that live in our training area and training sector. So those are some of the challenges that we've faced.
That's a lot of challenges, and that's a lot of growth opportunities that you've had. With that in mind, what do you think the next biggest project, your next big project you have coming up, something that you're excited about for the community?
A couple of things. Tonight we have it's called Get the Scoop. We partner with Utah Valley University. We partner with the school districts. We serve ice cream to the community and have an open house format for all of our educational programs. That'll tell you a little bit about how well we work together. That's tonight at 6 o'clock here at our Lehigh Thanksgiving Point campus. The other big project that we're working on, there are two that are taking place. We were funded in the last legislative session for a new campus down in Payson. So we've secured some property through donations from landowners and Payson City, and we'll be building off 800 South. We'll start construction, we'll break ground in the spring. So that's one exciting one for us that will add to our existing facilities. The other, I mentioned last week, we were with a system of higher education at the state board meeting. They approved our proposal for a campus in Wasatch, up in Wasatch County. And so while it's approved by them, we still have to have legislative funding for that to happen. So we'll be going forward as the #1 request for the technical colleges to the legislature this year. And of course, we're working on that to, here again, partner with the school district and locate a campus adjacent to where they're going to be constructing a new high school in the near future up there, and work closely for our secondary enrollment. Just to give you an idea, we're about 35% secondary students and about 65% adults. We have the largest number of membership hours for secondary students in the entire system. So we have great partnerships with those 7 school districts, but that's not unique. We've been in that boat. We've had the largest generation for the last 15 years, even when we weren't the largest technical college.
Okay, that's awesome. So that's it's not a surprise to me that you have some of those big projects there, because the region that you're in has an amazing amount of growth going on there, an amazing amount of opportunities that are opening up every day. So the fact that you're growing and being able to meet the future needs of those opportunities is fantastic. What advice do you personally have for an aspiring entrepreneur or community leader down from your area?
I think some things that have been crucial to focus on during the time that I've worked in administration, in the technical college world, or in any of the colleges and universities, we need to be nimble and responsive. We need to be open-minded for things like blended learning, online learning, and how we can take training to different formats. It isn't a one-size-fits-all any longer. And so we have to be open-minded about that. Another area that we really need to focus on and be very conscious about is diversity, equity, inclusion, and removing barriers for all students and all employees. We recently hired a director of inclusion to look at everything across the board, from those that might be financially disadvantaged to racially disadvantaged. We've tried to focus on, we have a really good balance. We have 51% male students and 49% female students here at MTEC. We've worked with elevating the female administrative representation here. We've tried to look at having diversity. And I guess that's one thing that I've learned. You don't want to surround yourself with people that think the same way that you do. You need diversity in input so that you can look at things from different angles. I have a great team of people here, and they look at things from a different approach. And I think it's allowed us to help students to have more learning opportunities, more diverse learning opportunities. And probably the biggest thing that I focus on, this goes back to upbringing and just the way I feel about things. I'm a big fan of a book called Lincoln on Leadership, Chapter 4. You as well?
Absolutely, it's my favorite leadership book.
It sits on my desk, a little hard to see here on this view, but it sits on my desk every day. And it's bookmarked on Chapter 4. Honesty and integrity are the best policies. And I think things that have been so helpful for me over the years are to focus on relationships. It's all about relationships. And the key to relationships is if we can have a positive interaction with our business partners and forget about any self-promotion, then we can do great things to help other people be successful. And in my sector, it's through education. And so Lincoln on Leadership is my favorite book. Man went through so much adversity and still had that positive attitude of working towards helping others, and has had such a huge impact. I'm currently reading The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, and it ties right in line with chapter 4 on Lincoln on leadership that I've tried to keep in mind. And so around here, we have two ways that we approach things. I tell any new employee when we bring them on, your first priority is your health. If you're not healthy, you're not productive at work, you're not able to be contributing to help in the educational process. Secondly is personal and family. If you're not happy at home, you're not productive at work. And then third is work. And I'm convinced that if you allow people to be involved in the special functions and activities in their lives, that they're going to be much more productive at work and be able to help others. And seems to have been a successful approach. And then the other is just always ask the question, what is best for students? And I don't think you can go too far wrong if you keep those things in mind.
I appreciate your thoughts on that. You know, when you're talking about diversity, I couldn't agree more. The thing most people don't realize about diversity and the importance of having diversity in their surroundings is you don't know what you don't know. I mean, it's the very first level of learning is you don't know what you don't know. And same thing goes with diversity. If you have a blind spot to something, maybe somebody else that sees the world a little bit differently than you doesn't have that same blind spot. And the diverse workforce helps overcome those blind spots. So I do want to specify, I was not setting this up. Lincoln on Leadership is my favorite leadership book also. You're the first person I've met though who has read it. First other person.
It's my favorite, and haven't just read it once. I've read it many times over the years and always go back and thumb through that. And you know, the challenges that he went through with, you know, everything from a complete nervous breakdown and bankruptcy and losing so many different elections that he went through, and still to rise above all of that adversity. When you mentioned looking at things through a different lens, what might be an obstacle for me is not for you, and vice versa. But right. It's hard for me to understand that. I grew up during an era that, you know, my dad always said, be the first to work and the last to leave, and make your boss look good, and you'll be successful in what you're doing. And times have changed significantly, and
yes, they have.
Learning has changed significantly, and so try to be open-minded about things. And you know, we have some real young folks here that serve as we don't have recruiters here. We're not recruiting to come here. We counsel you, and if the best place for you is at UVU or at SLIC, we counsel you to do that. These are, you know, we're sacred guardians of the taxpayers' dollars, and we want to do what's best for helping people. And so we try to get them to the best place possible. But we have a lot of young people that do counseling, because we have a lot of young people that come here as students. They don't want to hear from this old, bald, gray-haired guy. They want to hear from somebody more closer to their age that can relate to them that much better. So we've tried to do a lot of things like that to where we can help students be successful.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate your sage words on that. Really quickly before we transfer over to our lightning round, how can people find Mountainland Technical College online?
Mountainland Technical College is MTEC.edu. I know that seems a little odd because our acronym is MTECH with an H on there, but when the legislature had us do a name change, that one was already taken by Montana. And so it is, again, MTEC.edu. We have a new website, a relatively new website on there. You can find information about scholarship opportunities, so you can be part of that 99.2%. Have a lot of enrollment options and answers about questions. But there's also, if you call here or contact us, and that contact information's there, we'll get you talking to a live person so that we can answer your questions. And if you want to take a tour, you can schedule a tour to come down, not to be recruited, but to be counseled.
Fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to transition the interview to our lightning round, and lightning doesn't mean like hit the buzzer really fast. It's just a different type of questions. But I'm going to hand it off to Jennifer to go over these questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Clay. We learned a lot about Mountainland Technical College. Okay, so my first question for you is, do you happen to have a favorite local charity or nonprofit that you like to support and promote?
Yes, we partner with United Way here at Mountainland Technical College, and so we do a lot of work in the community. We just co-hosted the Day of Caring, and so all of our employees were involved in a day of service, and we're also involved with several activities during the course of the year with United Way. So they do a great job here in the county, and it helped us focus on how we can again help people. And so service is a great thing for people. So yes, United Way.
Do you happen to have a favorite local restaurant?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to preface this that I'm kind of a farm boy and like horses and livestock and things. So you're going to kind of get that flavor as we go through here. I have two local places I love to eat. I like steak and potatoes. So Texas Roadhouse here in Lehigh, that's one of my favorites. The other is a little Mexican restaurant that is up in Draper called Guadalajara's, and eaten there for years and years and years. So those are my two favorites.
Awesome, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about how you like to spend time in Utah here in the summertime?
Okay, this will come back to those agriculture roots. I competed for several years in rodeos, and was on the rodeo team at Utah State University when I went to college up there. All of my kids went on, and that's how they got their education paid for, was participating on the rodeo team at colleges. So I still team rope. As I've gotten older, I can't do a lot of the things I did before, but I still team rope. So that's how I spend most of my summers.
Tell me, what do you like to do here in Utah in the wintertime?
I'm going to be really boring here. My neighbor has an indoor arena, and we rope steers during the wintertime. We have about 4 days, 4 times set apart, and when things at the college don't interfere, we rope steers. There's half a dozen of us that have, we have about 30 head of steers together, and we rope during the course of the winter as well.
Fantastic. And tell me, what do you like best about living in Utah?
I like the diversity and the climate. Love the atmosphere. Whenever I travel, I always am glad to come back to Utah. There's really good people in Utah, good communities, and there's a lot of diversity. When you look at the Red Rock from southern Utah on up to the snow and the canyons in Logan and everything in between, I really like the diversity that we have here in the state.
And last question, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received on leadership?
That probably ties back into my earlier comments. My father used to tell me, in order to be someone who tells untruths, you have to have a really good memory. So honesty is always the best policy, and base a lot of those things from my dad, the relationship that I had, and the sage advice that I got from him, and that has always served me well. Just to be on it, that your word is your bond, and that if you do that and try and treat others the way that you want to be treated yourself, and try and look at things from that lens. And so here, tying back into Mountainland Technical College, we've tried to have health care and benefits and put some things in place, educational reimbursement for our employees so that they can do additional training. We have a new paternity policy in place. We've tried to go through and look at things from a lens as to how we can have a better environment for our people to work, and the longevity of our employees has helped reflect that. So that's probably the best advice I've received.
Well, Thank you.
Well, Clay, I appreciate your thoughts. I think that brings our interview to an end.
Well, thank you, Frank and Sterling and Jennifer. I've enjoyed spending some time with you, and the opportunity to talk a little bit. You can probably ascertain from our discussion, I'm passionate about Mountainland Technical College. I'm passionate about career and technical education and helping people better their lives in this educational process. So I appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts.